Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back for another mentoring session with Kendra right now. I sent her the link, so it's waiting for her to show up, and then we can get started. Got this all set up here. Hey Kendra, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you now.
Perfect. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. How's your trading day going? Did you take any trades today?
Didn't because I had a lot of stuff to do today. I'm preparing to go to the field, so I couldn't even hop on the live session this morning.
Oh, it's all right. It's probably a good idea you didn't because there was a lot of news this morning. So
But I see the trades were still hitting though, the scalps and stuff.
oh, I know, right? Yeah, I didn't even take it myself. I wish I did. But yeah, I saw a lot of people killing it. I was like, man, I should have just taken these trades, but it feel risky. Like I don't like trading when I get nervous because then
Right.
it never plays out right. You get too nervous, you close out too early. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah, I was using that 3 minute strategy that on the 3 minute time frame.
Oh, the one that
Um,
Josh traded?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
nice.
it's been working for the most part. Sometimes it hits stop loss, but it's such a small, scalp. It's not too detrimental to the account.
Exactly. And I feel like it hits pretty often. Like it's worth risk because
Yeah.
there's so many more entries and it usually hits. So it's like, why not give it a try?
Yeah, and then even on the 3 minute, sometimes it'll coincide with the snipe strategy. Like
Hmm.
it'll um
Oh, like you have a sniper ready and then, or like, one comes after the other and it gives you like this
right.
little
So like
confirmation.
even on the 3 minute, you'll get like the signal, either a buy or sell, and then it'll reject off the pivot and the structure. So now we're like, okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna take that because that's like double confirmation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I like doing that too sometimes. Like I like looking for the 10-minute and then it's say if we have a 10-minute entry and I don't want to enter right away, I'll
Hmm.
hop in if it gives me the entry on the 3-minute because it's kind of like you're scalping within the scalp basically.
Right. So do you still take like the 10 minute, like the daily US 30 entries? I know the
Uh,
sell.
yeah, I do sometimes. I just haven't been doing it lately because of the news. Like today, I should have taken that one. I think it hit TP, right? Yeah, it did. Hit full TP today. And the one yesterday hit TP too.
It
So
did. It was in some drawdown, and I set it to TP1, but it did hit yesterday.
yeah, it was crazy because like I looked away for like a couple of minutes and I turned around, it was like full TP. I was like, damn, I should have just hopped in. It was like one
Hmm.
candle like dumped all the way down and I was like, dang, that's crazy. It happened so fast.
Yep, it did that, and then on the 10 minute, the snipe, the three things that we look for, it was all there, and I was like, okay, maybe it's gonna keep going down. Or was I'm thinking about Tuesday, because it's like fake out on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, what do they call it? Trap Tuesday or something like
Yeah,
that?
Trap Tuesday.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of fake outs on Tuesday. But I did like this whole week's been pretty good for everyone. Like I haven't been trading that much, but like seeing everybody else's profits, I'm like, dang it, it still works. Like people like trust it that much to just take it. I'm like, it's cool because then we understand that it still works, like so if this happens again in the future, we could still keep taking the trades. Because I'm still like, even though this is my strategy and I've been using it for a while, I'm still like really careful with it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to like start all over because like in January when we got like hit back to back, like all those losses, it was because the market was crazy, you know, and I was like, damn, well,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's why I'm being like a little more careful. Like if I was trading the way I was like last year, like earlier on this year, I probably would have made like so much more profit. But I'm like satisfied with what we've been making because last week was good. Like, did you trade last week with us? Because we had
yeah,
like all wins. Yeah,
I
last
doubled my
week.
account last week.
Oh, did you? Nice,
Yep.
congrats. Yeah, like last week was crazy. It was just back to back to back wins, and I think this week kind of threw me off because I didn't realize there was so much news, and it made me want to be more careful because I don't want to lose my profits from last week. but it's been good this week too. Just
Yeah,
not
and that's
not
what happened. Like, because I got a bad habit of leaving my profits in my account instead of just withdrawing and stuff. So
yeah.
because it's in there, and then like when your trade goes into drawdown, it just wipes you out. So
Yeah, and you kind of don't want to pull it out because you're like, oh, I made profit from the other day, and you end up losing all of it. And you're like, damn,
right,
I
and
should
then
just
now
close
I
it.
got a little bit more leverage, so I can take a larger lot size and make more. So, and that's kind of what happened to me with the FTMO. Like I
Mhm.
know proper risk management, but like it seems like it's so tight, especially with the $10,000 account because I was on like phase two, and then
Mhm.
one of the US 30 trades that we took, I think it got close to stop loss, but it didn't hit stop loss. And I took another trade the next day, but they keep like the total drawdown throughout your whole testing phase, so it
Yeah.
doesn't reset the next day.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's why I usually that's why I like the scalps more now because for the daily loss, it resets.
Hmm.
'Cause, like we only scalp for like a few minutes, so like we're not holding onto that trade till the next day. Because when we do the daily, we'll take it sometimes and it'll like carry over to like the swap. And then when that happens, it's like, damn, your drawdown is still there for the following day.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to build up this account because I'll take that money and then I'll start my FTMO and then work off that. Just trying to make the money work for itself.
Exactly. Yeah. No, same here. I do the same thing. Like when my personal gets like over a certain amount, I just withdraw it. So like if I do lose on that account, it's like I already know what I'm losing. It's not like I have too much in there to let it keep going. Because
Yeah.
your emotions get involved sometimes when you have like
Heck yeah.
yeah when you're into some heavy drawdown and you think it's gonna come back, it's like the more and more you think it's gonna come back, the less and less it does come back, and it's like dang, should just close
And
it
you
out.
get burnt like that all the time because one trade, I think it was an AUD trade. That's why I stopped messing with AUD. It came back. It wasn't in as much drawdown, and I thought it was gonna go into profit, but then it just hit stop loss.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
no,
like,
for
dang,
sure.
I could have just cut my losses, but that's why we have
Yeah,
stop losses in
yeah,
place.
it's kind of hard because like sometimes you'll get to some trades where it gets really close to your stop loss or it hits your stop loss like just above it and then it goes straight to profit. So you're like sometimes you kind of just want to keep pushing it back and back, but then
Yes,
sometimes it doesn't come back. It just ends up like stopping you out heavy.
just like that Jur 30 trade I had sent you
Oh yeah,
when
yeah,
I
the one
was,
from the other
it
day. Yeah,
hit stop loss. I mean, it wicked it and then went straight into profit.
I know. I hate when that happens. Yeah, this was on the
Yep.
19th, so that was last week. Yeah, last week was kind of risky too. Like, well, it was really good for US 30, but I feel like a lot of the other pairs, because I don't know if you were following it, but like the DAX usually it follows US 30, but last week it was going the opposite. So I was kind of confused. I was like, it's weird that it's not going the same way. Same with like S&P, like they were just kind of going opposite of the US 30.
Right, and you said like the DAX usually leads the rest of the indices.
Yeah, most of them, like the ones that so I think it's like US 30, S&P, the Aussie 200,
Hmm.
the ones that are not the tech ones. So like I think the Spain 35 too, and like the China 50, but just not the Nasdaq and not UK 100. So other than that, I think it usually leads for the most part.
Like I was just looking right before we got on at like the correlation. Like
Mhm.
my FX book used to have it, but I don't see the correlations for US 30 anymore on there. I just see like the Forex pairs.
Oh yeah, I think it was on there before, but now that I've been looking at it more and more, I think the main ones that correlate with it are just from what I saw was like Euro USD
Hmm.
sometimes, uh, S&P, the S&P 500, and I think just the DAX. I think those are the main three. But I think just because the market's been kind of choppy, they I think they took it off because there's not. It's kind of hard to find a correlating pair for it now, since,
Okay.
since it's kind of like bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, because like with that right there, it kind of helps you. Like if one is going up and it negatively correlates with the other one, so it's
Mhm.
going down, so you can kind of trade both at the same time.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's usually why I like looking at the DAX and looking at the other ones too, or the ones that move opposite of it. I don't know which one moves opposite of it. Have you found one that moves opposite of US 30?
No, because that's what I was looking to see just now.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've been trying to look for one, but because it's kind of easy for like gold. Like if you're trading gold, you kind of know what like you just look for DXY and it does the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But for US 30, yeah, I'm not familiar with what moves opposite of that one.
Yeah, I was trying out that 3 minute strategy on the DAX. I don't think it works on the DAX.
No, yeah, I don't
I
think it works. I don't think it works for everything. Let me start. But
Yeah, cause
2 minute right here. Yeah, I was just talking about this with like the other guys. We are trying to figure out because I know there's got to be some way to figure out what causes it to be a valid entry. We were trying to look through it because usually when I create strategies, I just look for patterns. Like if I see
mhm,
something like this, like one of the other guys, Kyle, he was saying that like if it's like a small candle previous to the signal, like these right here, generally they continue to move in that direction. Like for example, right here, it just continues to push upwards. If it's like a signal right here and there's a big candle right before it, this is usually a bad entry because it usually indicates that like that full move already passed because it's like so many pips right here.
right.
So that's one thing that Kyle was looking at. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm sure there's a way to figure it out. It's just we just got to test it and play around with it to figure out what it is. But I don't know if you noticed anything. But if you did, feel free to let us know so we can probably work on something.
And just looking at the chart, it looks like a couple of those would have been like valid trades. Like it would have hit TP. Because
Mm-hmm.
you were only looking for like what 500 pips, 50 pips,
For the 3 minute, I
3 minute,
think Josh said it was like 20 or 250, like half of
two
the
fifty.
normal.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, because I think that since it's a smaller time frame, we just go for a smaller move
right,
versus the 10 minute, which is like three of these candles put together. So I think
exactly.
that's the case. We just go for half of the move, which has been pretty good because it usually pushes at least that much. Yeah, I don't know how much it'd be for the DAX though, because the DAX moves different. So maybe for the DAX it would be 50. I just know for US 30, it's around the 250 pip range.
Okay, yeah. So it's probably like are the pips like calculated the same for the DAX?
I don't know. Let's check. So let's see. We'll go to this last one right here. This is about like 100 pips. Let's go to US 30 real quick. See what's like on there. So that last candle. It's way different. It's only like 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's way different. So I don't know. I guess it's like a little more. So yeah, it would probably make sense for this to be 50
yeah.
versus yeah, because this is way more. It's like 94 pips. Comparing that to US 30 right here, this is only yeah, it's only like 20 pips. So that's a huge difference.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I tried it on the demo one time.
Hmm.
Just putting in a DAX trade. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Or like a micro lot.
exactly. The thing with the DAX too is it moves different. So like US 30, you can kind of see like the dollar movement. Like it'll go from like a few bucks to a few bucks. Like you'll see the dollars move.
Hmm.
But for the DAX, it moves in like blocks. Like when you take a trade, you'll see it move like 10 bucks per like pip.
Yes.
So I think that's the difference. That's why the pips are like it's probably worth more per pip versus how much it's worth with the US 30. That's kind of why I prefer to just stick with the US 30 because we already know how it moves. And I
Hmm.
feel like it doesn't really make me as nervous versus trading like the DAX where it moves way too fast.
Okay. Can we look at some forex pairs? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I like trading the indices, but I feel like sometimes the forex pairs are more like I don't want to say for sure, but they're not as they don't have as big a moves as like the indices.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Yeah. So which one do you want to look at?
Um, we can look at some GBP pairs.
All right, cool. So you want to look at like GU or something like that, or do you have
Yeah,
let's
that's fine. GU,
okay,
GJ.
okay,
Doesn't
let's
matter.
look GJ. I think GJ is probably smoother. And which strategy do you normally apply on it?
The I was trying to do the snipe strategy. So
Hmm.
like um reject off the pivots in the structure.
Yeah, do you do it on the 10 minute or do you do it on a different time frame?
See, that's the thing, because I know you usually like when you give out the signals, it's on the 4 hour.
Yeah, and I think for the scalps, it's usually on the 30 minute. You can do it on the 10 minute too, but the problem with the 10 minute is that it like unless your spread is like really tight, you're gonna get caught in a lot of moves where you can't really make profit off it because,
Mm-hmm.
like, say for example here, if your spread is like 4 to 6 pips and the move is like 10 pips, you got to cover that spread both ways. So you're
Right.
probably not gonna make any profit. Like for example here, let me see if I can find a trade that was available here, like this green one right here. So for this one right here, this would be an entry. Let's see. Let's rewind to that right there. Yeah, so it looks like this green one right here would have been an entry because it rejects off this this orange pivot and the structure right here, or the green
Mm-hmm.
pivot. So this would be an entry right there. But the problem with this is if you enter a short position right here, your stop loss is going to be, this is only 6 pips, unless you have it like really wide. But I'm not sure. If you're scalping, you're probably not going to want to go for like 20 pips. You want to go for something closer. And I don't trade GJ, so I don't know what the sweet spot is. But so for example, if you're going for 10 pips, then if your spread's 5 pips, you're like not going to make any profit because you got to pay the spread both ways. You pay the
Right.
spread going in, you pay the spread going out. So in reality, in order to make profit off this, you got to go for a bigger move, like maybe 15 or 20 pips. So that's why I prefer doing it on a 30-minute because the 10-minute it does work, but you just got to go for a bigger move. Like for example, here, if you were to play this out, it would still hit, but like for this one right here, let me just go to this green one. There's another entry right here. If you were to take this trade over here, let's see.
Yeah, for a buy.
Yeah, I guess it would still hit, but I guess it'd be risky because even in this situation, if you're going for 15, your TP really has to be like 5 pips because you got to pay the spread going in and out. Because when you enter, you're going to be a -5, and when you exit, you got to pay the spread that way too. So technically, you're only going for like 5 pip profit. Do you get what I'm saying? When you like spread, yeah. So I don't know if I would do this on the 10-minute. Unless you're watching it. Like for example, if you just have it set up and you're like watching it and it hits TP and you just close it out manually, then that's perfectly fine. But if you're just setting a TP stop loss, it might be difficult for you because you have to actually calculate that into your position since the the spread's kind of wide.
Okay, and that's why you trade it on the 30-minute because when you trade it on the higher time frames, you can get bigger moves.
Yeah, bigger moves, and just depending on your spread. Like for example, here, let's go on the 30-minute. If we're looking here on the 30-minute, let me see if I could find an entry here, and I'll show you like the difference between.
Okay, so before you do anything, you see like how all the K2SR, the lines, how would you draw your zones? Would you just make that one big zone like at the top?
Oh, like these up here?
Yeah.
So what I would do is I usually go from like where they start. Like for example, right here, you can see that this zone is like right down here. So I'll just draw like one zone right here. And then if they don't overlap, then I'll keep them separate. But if they do overlap, like let me go to this one right here. That doesn't overlap, so that's fine. This one right here. I only merge the zones if they overlap. And if they're close, I only do that on the 4-hour because that's when the zones are important. But if you're on this on the shorter time frame and you're trying to scout, it's going to be important that you have like the little spaces in between, because that could be the difference between it being a valid entry or not, right? Because like if it like, I'm trying to find one where it kind of let's see.
Yeah, because sometimes it'll be like
Because sometimes
a
it'll be
red
like,
and green lines in between, and I'm like,
yeah,
well, which one do I? But if they overlap, then just make that one zone.
exactly, yeah. Like for example, right here, this green one right here, you can see if we pull this up, it overlaps with this smaller red one right here. So if that's the case, I would just merge those two together. But I wouldn't merge them if they're just because they're close by. Like how you mentioned earlier, if this is the case and we just make like one big one, it might be. In a lot of cases, it's not going to be an issue, but in some cases, it might be, because in some instances, they'll be like, okay, like let's see. Like this, for example, like see how this green one, let me just turn this off. K2SR. There we go. Like this green one, for example, if you look at this one right here, like you can see that there's no entry there, right? Because there's no zone below it. But if you were to merge all these together, you just created one big zone, then you would have been like, oh, it's actually an entry. And then if you took that, it would have been a loss because it would have reversed on you.
Right.
So like that's why I wouldn't merge them if you're scalping. If you're doing the 4 hour, it's fine because, or the 4 hour K2SR strategy, it'd be fine because in that situation, um, you wouldn't be trading in between these small areas anyways, because there's just not going to be enough space for you to even trade. Like right here, it's like 1 pip. You're not going to trade a little 1 pip, or even like right here, you're not going to trade in between here, and it's only like a 4 pip move, right? So like on the 4 hour, it would make sense to merge them, but for the scalping, this is the main reason why I wouldn't, because you might see trades that are actually not there, and then you might take them on accident.
Okay. Because what I've been doing on the 4 hours is like draw the zones based off the K2SR, and
Uh-huh.
then wait for the next valid signal. That was before like because I haven't used the snipe method on the 4 hour.
Yeah. Oh, it does work though. Like I've seen other people use it, so it
Uh-huh.
does work. It's just it's gonna be really hard to find entries, right? Because like if you're looking on the 4 hour, let me just open another chart here. Yeah, so if we go on the 4 hour on GJ, like it does work, but it's gonna be really hard for you to find entries because it's the 4 hour candle only closes like so many times
Right.
a day. So like for example here, let's see, like it'll close sometimes, like for example right here. Actually, it looks like it hits pretty nice. So it looks like it does hit like and the another problem with this too is that if you're trying to trade off momentum on the 4 hour, momentum is not there. Like it's usually not there that far out. Like if you catch momentum right here, it doesn't necessarily mean price is going to keep pushing in that direction for like the next day or so. But if you were to take this trade here, it looks like it would have hit this one right there. So if you take that trade right there, uh, this would have hit TP. Because in reality, it does work for all the time frames. It's just, if you're scalping, it's meant to be traded on a quicker move, not really a big one. But it does work. Like for example, right there, it hits I think one right here too.
Yeah, for the sell.
Yeah, for a sell right there.
So what's like the general rule for like, or on the 4 hour pip wise, like the TP goal, like what?
Yeah, that becomes an issue too, because if you're trading on the higher time frame, it's kind of hard to gauge where you want to be aiming for. Because like for a scalp, like you kind of know where the price is going to move. 10 to 20 minutes from now, it's going to move like for US 30, it moves like 500 pips or something like that. Right. On the 4 hour, you really don't know because like it cuts through different sessions and it also deals with news. Like for example, here you could be entering this trade right here, and then like 3 candles later, there's news right here. So you don't know if this is going to push price or if it's just going to make it go flat. So that's why I usually don't recommend using it on the 4 hour. But I mean, if it does work for you, I mean, just looking at it here, I'm like, damn, it does work pretty well. Like there's another one right here too.
Yeah.
So it does work. It's just it's as long as you have the patience for it, right? Because like if you take this trade here, like you're gonna be in some heavy drawdown, but it ends up swinging up. But you're not gonna get TP for like 2 days.
Is it like 80 pips?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's like 80 pips. They're all 80 pips. So like this just takes like 2 days to hit.
Right.
This takes like almost 2 days. They look like they almost all take about 2 days or so. Yeah, a day or two. But I mean, for the most part, it looks like they do hit. So if you do want to do it on the 4 hour, by all means, go ahead. You could probably be the example. Like you can let us know if it works or not. I just haven't tested it, so I don't really recommend it to anybody. But it does work. It's just the strategy is meant for scalping, so that's why I always recommend using it on the shorter time frames to get in and out.
Right.
But if you want to use it on the 4 hour, I mean, by all means, there might be an extra, maybe like other requirements that you can like implement into it. But that would just come with practice, right? Like if you start running into losses, we can like analyze them and see like, why did this trade lose? What can we do different to avoid that on the next try? But I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do to fix the strategy and or make it better.
Okay. Yeah. So just like without sniping on the 4 hour, just using the K2SR zones and the valid signal, that should be fine, right?
Oh, you can do that too. That would be the pivot strategy. Do you remember the pivot strategy?
No.
Okay,
Like
so
waiting for all of them to cross?
no, so basically the pivot strategy, the way that it works is it doesn't use the zones, but basically um, what you look for is you look for price to be trending. Like for example, right here, price is trending up. Let me just go back to like something like this right here. So for example, here, price is trending up. Next, you want to identify a retracement. So you can see that price is, it swings up to this point, it retraces down right here. Then we look for a rejection off the pivot area. And then you look for a valid signal because you mentioned a momentum signal. So if you're looking for a signal, it's basically the pivot strategy. Like you wait for, you look for price to trend, you wait for a retracement, you look for a rejection off the pivot area, and then a signal in that direction. So if you have a signal there, you just take that, and then that's a pivot strategy right there. And it works too. So I don't know if that's something that you want to look at. It's another one of the strategies that we have. This strategy kind of aligns with Josh's strategy. So Josh's strategy is basically the pivot strategy just on the 3-minute, because he generally trades in the direction of the trend too. So he actually uses the pivots to identify his trades. So if you want to look into that, that would be the pivot strategy. You basically just wait for, like, you look for price to be trending. In order to determine that, you just want to make sure that price is above or below the pivots, and then the pivots are angling in the same direction and spread out. So like, for example, right here, this is like a clear trend up, right? You can kind of tell just by looking at it.
Right, because it's so spread out.
Yeah, it's just spread out and they're all angling up. So that's going to indicate that price is in an uptrend. So once you identify it's an uptrend, you have a bias. You're only looking for buys. So once you have that set up, you just wait for a price to retrace down. Like for example, here, price comes up, and then you wait for it to retrace. You look for that rejection somewhere down here. You look for the buy signal. And then once you have that buy signal, you enter the buy position right there. So this would be the K2 pivot strategy. This is the strategy that people use before I introduced the snipe strategy. It's really similar to the snipe strategy. It's just that we wait for the momentum signal. So some people didn't like that because they felt like when they got the momentum signal, they felt like they were getting into the trade late. So that's why I just changed it up a little bit to cater to what people like and what they wanted.
Yeah. Do you still use the trend meter anymore? Because when I first started watching the videos, I know we used the trend meter to like kind of see if there would be any retracement. So if we got like if the trend meter was green and then we got like a sell signal.
Yeah, I don't really use it as often anymore. I mean, it's still usable. It's just because I'm more focused on like scalps now. It works better on like intraday trading because if you're scalping, you kind of don't care what's going on the higher time frame because you're just scalping within the shorter time frame. So when we're scalping, we don't really look at what's going on the 30-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour. We're just looking at the 10-minute because we're just trying to get in and out of those trades, right away. So the trend meter is kind of relevant for scalping, but it's good if you're still trading intraday. So if you want to trade the 4 hour or like somewhere between the 30-minute to the 4 hour, then it's still useful. Another reason why I don't use it as much is because we use the pivots more often now, and the pivots are so the trend meter is used to identify the trend, right? The pivots are used to identify the same thing. Like I mentioned earlier, when price is above the pivots, it's going to indicate that price is trending upwards. And if you turn on the trend meter, you can see it's green down here as well. So, I mean, you could use it for a double confirmation. I talked to someone, what was it, yesterday? We had a mentoring session yesterday, and they use double. So they use both. They use the pivots and the trend meter. So if they see that the trend meter is green and they see the pivots are angling up, they're like, all right, this is for sure a strong trend up.
Right.
So that's another way to do it. I mean, even if you're using the original, the original intraday strategy where you just match where it's green and green, like this works perfectly fine too. Like you can literally just take every buy signal that matches with it and they still hit. So
right. Okay.
So like if you want to be like super careful, like you want to be 100%, you can like you can look for requirements for multiple strategies. Like you can look at the pivot strategy, and then you can also line it up with possibly the snipe strategy, and then even line it up with the intraday strategy as well. Because if you have all those requirements and they all hit, that trade's probably gonna be 100% sure.
Yeah.
So
now I'm taking a standard lot.
Exactly. Yeah. So now that you're taking a bigger lot size, that's probably why you kind of want to be a little more careful.
Right.
So I mean, it's up to you. Like for me, I don't like to. Well, I like to be careful, but I don't like being too careful, right? Because if I'm too careful, then I'm probably not going to take any trades. Because if you think about it
Right.
too much, that's like the main thing too. It's I feel like if you think about it like a little too much, that's where it starts to mess with your trade psychology. Because like you already have a strategy that works, and if you just keep adding too many things to it, then you just might skip the trade because you think it's not a good one. But in reality, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, just trying to keep it simple.
Exactly. And I think that's why a lot of people like the snipe strategy. It's only like two requirements. And if it hits, it hits. And most of the time it does hit. So that's why a lot of people trust it.
Yeah. Because when I first introduced my mom to trading, I was using
Uh,
like the RSI and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, but I heard you mention before like the RSI doesn't really work with forex pairs because currencies can't be oversold or overbought. It only really works for like the indices.
Yeah, exactly. It works for like assets that are like limited, like gold, uh indices, like stuff that has market cap, right? Like for an index, there can only be so many, like there's so many market share that can be bought. Like there's only so many stocks that can be bought. For Forex, if a currency is really strong, it'll just keep pushing up. Like for example, when price is going up, that means that the GBP is stronger than the JPY. So if the GBP just continues to be stronger and stronger, it'll just keep pushing up. And if the JPY if it continues to be weak, then it'll go down. Or I mean, it'll keep going up. So depending on how strong the currency is, like say for example, if there's a war going on, right? If there's a war going on and their countries like, the country's in shambles, that country's currency is just going to keep being weak. Like it's
Yeah.
not going to be oversold because the country's too weak. It's going to be weak until that country recovers. So
Right.
um, it's just basic fundamentals, but a lot of people don't realize that because I see people use the RSI a lot for forex, and it's just like it just like drives me nuts when people keep entering like buys because they think it's oversold, but then it just keeps dropping. Like for example, let me see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, because
RSI.
I used to trade like that.
Yeah, but you probably didn't know that. So
No, I didn't.
yeah, exactly. You didn't know it at all because like for example here, like price gets overbought, but it just keeps going up and up. For example,
Hmm.
if your price is overbought, it just keeps going higher and higher. And I used to see people take those trades all the time, and I'm like, dang, like they really don't get it. Like they think it really does work that way, um, but it doesn't. Because, like for example, if you're just trading the GBP like by itself, then it would work. But you're trading two different currencies, so they're kind of weighed against each other. So if one's stronger than the other, it just keeps going up. If the other one's stronger than the other, it just keeps going down. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because this one's too strong or this one's too weak, it's going to have to reverse on you. So it's there's other ways that you can use the RSI for it. Like another way that people use it, and that I used to use as well, is I would put like a 50 line here. I don't know if you've ever seen that before or seen someone use it, but if you use a 50 line there, it'll tell you when price starts to swing the other way. So
Yeah.
like, for example, here, the 50 line, when it passes the 50 above it, it usually just continues up further. And then when crosses below it, like for example, right here, it usually comes down slightly. So that's one way to do it, to identify divergences. If you trade divergence, I don't really trade it that often, but there was a time in my trading life, like when I used to trade divergence, where like price would cross the 50, and then I would just take the trade in that direction, or I would scalp it in that direction, and then price crosses back above the 50, and I would just take a scalp in that direction as well.
Yeah, I used to try to look for all type of different stuff like, um, what is it, like shooting stars and all that terminology and
Oh yeah,
flag patterns and stuff like that.
complicated stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, like I used to look for that stuff too, because sometimes people will teach it and it sounds so like interesting, right?
Right.
You see someone teaching, you're like, dang, that looks cool, or it looks like it works. But in reality, it's just, I mean, you could do the same thing looking at basic stuff. Like if you see price going up, you're like, all right, yeah. Or if you see like a wick like pushing up, you're like, all right, cool. That's like looks like price is gonna be rejecting off it or
Hmm.
whatever. But then people come up with like weird names for it. They call like shooting stars, doji, stuff like that. Like there's terms for it, but it also depends on like what you're trading to. Like on the 10-minute, I don't like when I see people use candlestick patterns on the 10-minute, I'm like, how do you even like, how does that even make sense to you? Because like they're only 10-minute candles. So like you'll see dojis here, and dojis are supposed to be reversal patterns. So if you see this here, you see like two dojis, and then people think it's going to come down, but in reality, just continues to push up. So I could see the candlestick patterns working on the higher time frames, but not necessarily on the shorter ones. So I mean, they do work sometimes. It just depends on what you're using it for.
Yeah, I just find like the simple stuff like the snipe strategy and stuff works just fine.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And if you find something that works, that's all that really matters, right? That's why I always tell people like there's no right or wrong way to trade. Like you can trade some weird strategy, but if it works, I mean, why not use it? You know, it's the same with K2. It's like people try to like knock off K2, but it's like it works, you know, like people get mad that we do like one-on-one risk reward, but it's like that one saying goes like, you know, don't fix something that's not broken, because we've been using it for like a long time now and there hasn't been issues with it. That's why we just continue to keep using it. And I mean, yeah, you're on the right track if you're trying to keep it simple, because that's been my whole goal with trading, because my trading strategy used to be super complicated, but then once I created these indicators, you know, it really takes the guesswork out of it. It's like a checklist, and if the checklist meets the requirements, there you go, and you have a trade.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I like it, because it's just that simple.
Exactly.
And then you start, it's easier to pick up on than trying to recognize all those. And they actually have like an app, like, okay, learn all the candle patterns and the names for it and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a lot to remember.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And the thing with trading is like price can only go in one or two directions, right? It only goes up or down. Like it'll go sideways for a bit, but eventually it's going to go up or down. So that's why I always tell people like there's no reason to make it complicated, because you're either right or you're wrong. Like you're never really going to be in the middle. Because sometimes like if you start to incorporate all those things, you'll have a trade that's actually a good trade, but then you see some pattern and you're like, oh, it's going to reverse. You end up pulling out, and then it ends up going to the direction that you thought it was going to be going in. So yeah, and that's why I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So like, cause I like when you really start making a lot of money and stuff like that, I know you mentioned the book that's in the chat, and I have that. But my question is, like, for the taxes, would you have to start like teaching people in order to get that benefit?
Oh,
like starting a business?
Oh, like are you trying to start a business, or are you trying to understand?
Well, yeah, I'm asking. So like trading and stuff like that, and you got to pay taxes and all that. But the what's in that tax-free wealth or something like that? You know, you have your financial business, so that mitigates a lot of your taxes. So I'm asking, would I have to start like teaching in order to get that tax benefit, or?
Oh no, not at all. Well, I mean, depends on how you're making your profits. Like if you're just trading your own account, then you're gonna have to pay capital gains. But that's why I prefer to trade with FTMO, because FTMO, they pay you as an invoice. So it's kind of like you're not necessarily making trading profits. You're kind of making like consultation profits, because you're trading their accounts. So you're using like your professional services to, trade for them, but you're not necessarily making trading profits. You're making, like, when they pay you, it's an invoice. So the profits come out different. Like a lot of people don't understand that. Like people like hate on FTMO or these funding companies, but they don't understand like the tax benefits that come with getting paid through an invoice, because you're kind of like a self-employed person. It's like you doing a service for someone, right? Like if you go and wash someone's car and they pay you like $10, that's like self-employment. It's like they paid you for your service, and then FTMO is paying me for my service too. So that's why I prefer to trade with FTMO versus trading my own personal account, because you get taxed differently. You don't get tax capital gains, since it's like self-employment, and then also and then once you start a business, you can start using deductions. Like for example, if you wanted to buy a brand new computer, you're using that for your trading, right? So you can deduct that from your taxes. So like you're basically in turn getting that computer for free, because you're using it for your business. Right. And then same with your FTMO. Like if you failed your FTMO and then you try to buy another one, that FTMO challenge fee is going to be a deduction, because you're technically paying for that FTMO challenge to run your business, which would be making profits through FTMO.
Oh, so that could be, I get it. Dang, that's smart. Yep.
Exactly.
So you just start your business just trading FTMO because you're offering that service to them. Makes sense
Exactly.
now.
Exactly. And it's like trading risk free, because like if you trade for FTMO and you make profits, you get to write off like, your trading profits. And then if you lose your account, like for whatever reason, you fail your FTMO, you just do another one, and then that'll be another deduction. So like when you start making profit, like say if you have like a shitty year, right? You lose like half the year, and you just keep losing FTMO accounts, and then you finally start getting good towards the end and you start making profits, then those profits are going to offset the money you put into doing all those FTMO challenges.
Right. So
yeah.
Would it be better to do like a sole proprietorship or like a LLC, like when trading FTMO, or it just depends?
It would depend. It would just depend. Like it would depend on how much money you plan on making. Like I never recommend really doing a sole proprietorship. Like if you're doing a sole proprietorship, that means that your business is your hobby. It's not a real business. Like because you're not really expecting to make that much money, right? Like if you're expecting to make a lot of money, you're going to start an actual business. You're not going to start a sole proprietorship. So for me, like my businesses are LLCs, but they're taxed as an S corp. So once you get to like once you start getting taxed as an S corp, that's when you start to make a certain amount of money, because then you can start paying yourself like a wage or something, because like for you, once you if you're an LLC, you just own the company and it's like self-employment. But if you're taxed as an S corp, you can hire yourself as like the CEO, and then you can start paying yourself a paycheck, and then the money just gets funneled through basically. So
okay, yeah, I gotta read that book.
Yeah, read that book or see a CPA. Like nothing that I'm telling you is relevant, because I'm not a CPA. I don't have no accounting experience, but this is stuff that I just learned from like reading books and getting my taxes done by my own CPA.
Oh yeah, no, it's good insight though.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to have like a general understanding, but everyone's tax situation is different. Like I don't know if you have like other investments, if you have kids or any of that stuff.
Right.
There's other factors that go into play when you decide, because when you have a business, like you can start like hiring on family and stuff, right? Like if someone's going to be your assistant, or you do your bookkeeping and stuff like that, you hire them on, and then there's more tax benefits to that as well. So yeah, what I recommend is you should probably just go see a CPA. Like once you want to start it as an actual business, just see a CPA. It's not that expensive. It's probably a couple $100 to like to see one, or maybe like $100 to see them for like just a 1 hour session, just to ask them questions, because that's the only way you'll find out. And you'll have to tell them like your specifics, like your whole situation, so that they can tailor your tax planning to you specifically, because everyone's different. So what I'm saying, like what I'm doing, that might not necessarily apply to you. So there's a lot of different routes you can take it.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You have anything else you want to cover today?
I think that's it. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was cool. That was cool that you mentioned that about the 4 hours. So I think I'm gonna start looking at it, see if there's something that I'm gonna take on there, because it looks pretty solid for the most part.
Because I know like the higher time frames are like safer bets, really. So that's why I just started trading the 4 hour when I did K2. So because it was either like the 1 hour or like the 15-minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no. Well, I personally, well, it depends on your trading style. Like for you, it seems like you like the safer trades. For me, it's I like scalping, because I don't like I just don't like holding a trade for too long. Like if I hold it for more than an hour, it's like I start to sweat sometimes. I'm like, because I hate when it goes into profit, and then like an hour later it goes into the negative, and I'm like, damn, I should have just closed out my trade. But for you, you might be the opposite. You might be like okay with that. Like you might be okay with the back and forth movement.
No, I actually hate it, and it gives me anxiety. But I like when we get on the live and then hit TP. It's not even 30 minutes after the market opens, and then we're done for the day.
Exactly.
And I have to keep checking my phone.
And something that like a couple members mentioned to me too is that like usually my first 2 scalps are spot on. They're always going to hit full TP. The third scalp is usually where it gets a little risky. So I started to keep that And I started to think about that. So like when I do take a trade, I'll like run the first ones to full TP, and then the third or fourth one, I'll usually maybe close it early. It just, it depends on how I feel for that day. But that's
Yeah.
something that like a couple of members noticed. They're like, hey, Shawn, your first two trades are usually almost for sure, but the third one's kind of iffy. That's where I usually go half lot, or they only go for like half TP, and then they just close out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be on tomorrow.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think tomorrow will be good. I don't really see much news for tomorrow. Let me check. This whole week, I didn't realize there was this much news this week. When I saw the calendar, I was like, damn, I didn't even look at this like the previous week.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why this week's been kind of crazy. But tomorrow, it looks like, yeah, there's not really much. It's just there's some US news at 5:30. So I'm hoping like after that, we can just lock in some trades and, go on with our day and then end this week on a good note. I mean, it's been a pretty good week so far. I don't think we had any losses. So well, I mean, a couple scalps, but I don't think we had any bad losses, like no Forex losses or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a great week so far. But
yeah, the last 2 weeks it was crazy.
Oh yeah, no, the last 2 weeks were pretty crazy. Like I was looking at the results. I was like, I didn't realize that we like I was shocked when I looked at the US 30 results from last week. We had like 10 back-to-back wins. I was like, that's crazy. I didn't realize we had that many wins. I was looking at the results and it was like every day it was like 4 US 30 wins. Tuesday was like 3 US 30 wins. Tuesday was 1.
Full TP at that.
Yeah, and full TP. I was like, dang, that's crazy. And that's why I like that we document these trades, because sometimes we'll have a really good week and we won't really we won't really know until like we actually document this stuff. Because sometimes like we'll have a week like this week. I thought this week was bad until I started putting the results together and I was like, this is actually a good week because we've been careful. It just seems bad because we don't have as many wins as we did last week. So it's kind of good that we've been documenting so that we know.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Am I your last session for today, or you got a couple more?
I got a whole day.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna hold you up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I got another one at I think we started at 5, or we started early today. So yeah, my next one's at 6. But yeah, I literally got sessions like all day. That's why I stopped doing mentoring sessions for new people. It's just, I'm down to help you guys out because you guys have been around for a while. Mm-hmm. But like for the new members, it's there's just so many people that want to learn, and it's hard to really make time for everybody when I got sessions like back to back all day.
Right.
Yeah, but it's all good. I'm glad to see everyone profiting. Like when I see everyone's profits, I think it's crazy because before it was just like a few of us sending profits, but now that everyone posts profits every day, it's like it just shows that what we do here works. So it's
absolutely
awesome. Yeah, it's a good feeling for all of us, I feel.
Yeah, we can get matching Teslas one day.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate your time.
All right, definitely. So I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow on the session.
Yeah. All right. Take care.